Hi, thank you for tuning to the Just Respected podcast with your host, Marcus.
And Cecilia Jordan.
We'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to give this podcast a listen. We truly appreciate it, and we pray that this podcast blesses you. If you enjoy it, please subscribe below. And we're back. How are y'all doing?
Hey, baby, how are you?
I'm doing good. Ace, thanks for all the love and support. Let's start off with that. Thanks for all the love and support that we got off of the first video. This has just been a new journey, and we're actually enjoying it. So this is episode 2 of the Just Respected podcast.
Yep.
So to this week, man, last week we talked about letting go of those expectations, and but this week we're going to actually talk about forgiveness.
Okay, yeah, that's a touchy
Forgiveness
subject, yeah.
and healing is going to be our topic of today.
That's a deep one.
That is a deep one, but I feel like with everything going on this year, it's needed.
Definitely.
Definitely needed, man. I'm talking about like learning to deal with pain, learning to deal with frustration.
Yeah, and all the things that lead to bitterness, resentment, anger. Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's hard because like when you feel like with forgiveness, a lot of people think like when you're forgiving someone, it's like you're forgiving them of what they've done for you. Like it's like you're accepting it, like it's okay.
Right.
That's not the case. You're more so just you're letting it go. Like you're moving forward. You know. It's more so for yourself because like what was that analogy you used the other day? Pastor Michael Todd used it too in his sermon this morning.
Oh, when he was saying that forgiveness is releasing someone of their debt. Yeah.
But he was saying like with the poison, like not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and expecting it to harm the other person.
Exactly.
I mean, forgiveness only helps you.
Right. Right. And I know a lot of times, like for myself, every time I used to get hurt, I used to just go into holding grudges.
So that's how you handle pain.
That was another way of coping, you know. But
you know, yeah.
It was doing more internal harm to me than the actual person that I was holding a grudge to. You know, you don't really go out for revengeance or, you know, or trying to get back at them, but it just more so what I started doing was, okay, well, I just distance myself. Oh, I don't have to speak to you. I don't have to, you know.
Like you're gonna ignore them. You give them the cold
right,
shoulder.
but then it was after a while.
Okay.
After a while, as God started conflicting my heart in a sense, He started telling me like, you know, I give you so much grace when you ask for forgiveness of your sin. I do that. I don't hold any weight towards it.
Yeah.
But just like he was saying, it's releasing someone of that debt. It's just more so like we as humans we're not perfect. We're always gonna we're
gonna make mistakes.
Right, and we're gonna let each other down. So it's like we hold everybody to that high standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But you know, when someone hurts you or do wrong by you, you just take it in and you just hold it.
But I feel like, you know, how can we expect God to forgive us if we won't forgive, you know, those who wronged us?
Right.
But I would agree with you. I feel like I kind of handle pain the same way. I retreat. I close off even more. Because I like to say that I'm beautifully broken. Like, you know, those who are broken kind of love very deeply. So, like, you know, if I say I love you and, like, call you a friend or whatever it may be, if there's any, like, hurt or pain from it, I take it. I take offense to it. And I think like that pain runs deep because like I love deep. I feel like I wear my
love hard. Yeah.
I mean, it takes hard to get underneath my little exterior, but you know, once you worm your way in, like I love you for life, type of thing. So.
Right. And I think that's to our Taurus nature. You know, we're very like set in our ways, and
yeah, I like to protect myself.
So tell me this.
Like I feel like that's one thing with forgiveness too. Like what a lot of people don't realize is like when you don't forgive someone, you let what they've done to you kind of change you, mold you into someone new. Like sometimes I feel like it may almost alter you in a sense. Like whereas if you would just forgive that person, like you could just move on. Like you said, some people get on that route of like revenge or destructive patterns. But, you know.
And it's only causing more damage to you internally.
Yeah. I agree.
How do you feel with dealing with rejection or betrayal?
Ooh,
like going back to forgiving someone that betrayed you.
That's hard because, like I said, when I love someone I love deeply. I was reading this book, from Lisa Turker's Uninvited, and it's like you have to live like you're loved.
Right.
Loved people, you accept that that person loves you, and like you start to take the malice out of it. Yeah, you have to understand and you have to accept that, like what you said, people are human, they make mistakes, they may not live up to your expectations. You can't make everyone happy. There's going to be disappointment in life, but it's all about not letting that betrayal make you bitter. I mean, I don't know. I'll be lying if I said it didn't do that to me. What about you with betrayal?
I think for rejection or betrayal, it makes me put them in like a category. Like, okay, I'm not, just because if they rejected me in this area, I'm not going to deal with them ever. So I'm gonna put them over here. And it's like you operate in like a certain, you know what I'm saying, like a certain area. Like you just more so like you'll start like, okay, let's say for instance, you get rejected on a sports team. Let's start young. You didn't make the cut. So for some, it's like, okay, I'm gonna work harder. Or for some, it's gonna be like, all right, I just give up. Because you let that one rejection or let some negative words that someone spoke over you dictate your whole outlook. I remember back in growing up, I did chorus. I love singing in choirs. I love like singing on stages. And I remember going through puberty, and
was that for the talent show?
Yes, around the same time when I was in 8th grade, I did a talent show in 8th grade. But it was so crazy that I got to the point where I started getting confident of singing in front of my peers.
Yeah. But
during that time that my voice was changing, one of my classmates, she made a comment like, "Wow, he sounds very nasally. Like he sounds like he's singing through his nose." Yeah. But it was not a negative comment. It was more so like
it was an honest comment.
Right. But understanding, like in the area that you're in your life, you can be sensitive to even like
taking in that criticism and letting it grow and
so what it is for me, it kind of took me to the road of not wanting to continue to pursue music in that way. That it kind of like, like you end up putting it that block because you got offended by it. And so sometimes it's like not even just forgiving the person that you feel like did you wrong. It's more so forgive myself because I took offense. Because the person that probably said something to you probably was coming from a place of love, but you're so quick to want to be offended. Or even from a place
of hurt, because honestly sometimes hurt people.
Right, hurt people hurt others too. So I mean it's like
about your perspective.
Understanding the perspective and giving grace to a situation.
I agree, but I would say I don't like rejection.
I don't
feel
either.
like I'm going to get rejected, like I don't like to hear the word no. I take rejection very hard. That's like my sense of insecurity. That's where when I get rejected, every sense of insecurity comes flooding in.
Right.
It's like all the negative thoughts. So
do you feel like with the rejection and like you said, all the negative thoughts come in, there's like you keep account of every negative thought? It's like everything comes pouring back in?
Yes, every moment of when I've been rejected. And every insecurity that goes along with it.
Yeah. So I mean,
it brings you to like a dark place.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, especially when you feel like your heart is in the right place and you're rejected or you're just not accepted. I mean, it comes in very many different forms. And
I mean, for example, like you could say you could come in the form of in your family,
in your career, and friendship, relationships, anything. Yeah.
Right. So it's so you kind of
even being rejected for your skin color, or
that one is a different
not fitting into a certain category. I mean,
that's a different pill for us to swallow, because when you can't help, your physical appearance, you can't help that, but you can. There's a lot of times in our society where people of color, women and men, you can get overlooked. And I mean, you can meet all the credentials, but if they don't want you, then they'll make a way that they don't want you.
Yeah, but I don't know. But I would say, I mean, all of that it affects you negatively. So if you can try and
So
But I've learned everything's a process. Forgiveness is a process. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden, like, I forgive you and you move on from, like, it's a process.
right.
It's giving that person grace, because let's be honest, Jesus, if the things he suffered, the amount of friends that betrayed him,
Right.
led him to his crucifixion.
And you know what's so
if
crazy?
you think, and he forgave them. So if we can't forgive people for giving us these, like, I would say minuscule offenses, because I know I take offense to a lot of things. We can't forgive people for the offenses that we've taken offense to. I mean, why should Jesus forgive us for anything?
Exactly.
He's forgiven for so much more.
And that's what I was leaning towards.
Even our sins too. I mean, we're not perfect. You cannot hold people to that standard to be perfect. It's grace, it's forgiveness, it's love, kindness, compassion. It all comes back to the Bible, everything that God is about.
Right. And that's what I was getting ready to lean towards too, about the betrayal. Jesus even knew the betrayal. He knew who was going to betray him. So it's like, even with times like that, that's
still was kind to them.
And still kind to. So
love.
it's even like this. What is that? If we had to look in our own lives and we had to see, okay, how is that similar to Jesus? Think about your friends, your closest friends. Those in times are the first, those are the first people to ever betray us, is our friends. And that's more so, we all growing up, we're trying to figure it out too. But like you said, hurt people hurt others, and envious people hurt others.
Yeah, because let's just be honest, it's much easier to forgive a stranger than it is to forgive someone who's hurt you, that's close to you.
Right.
That person knew you, they were supposed to love you, protect you, whatever the case may be. But
now I want to go back to that part of me telling about sometimes people hold grudges, and that usually
you're good for that.
Yeah, and that's usually to come even for people like your friends hurting you. You just say, okay, I'm done with that person. You cut them off, and that's a lot of times, in your immaturity, you'll cut someone off before you even hear their side of the story. It's just more so you done made it up the notion in your mind, and that's it.
That is true. Don't get me wrong. Some people are toxic, though.
So yeah, no. We're not talking about that people. There is there's always two sides.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like in the form of grudges, or someone like a family member betrayed your trust, or you told them a secret and they said, "Oh man, I'll never tell your secret," but next thing you know, it's out and they told it, and you just feel so betrayed. So you just say, "Okay, I'm done." So it's like, don't you ask me for nothing, don't you call me for nothing. If I ever loaned you money and you never paid me back, you start to build them type of grudges.
Yeah.
And it's like our heart is so shut off to them. It becomes
hardened.
Yeah, but it's so crazy, because even in that sense of holding those grudges, and I know I'm guilty of it, it'll come a season where the person I feel like I have like a malice towards, they'll come back and they'll be like, hey, I'm in bad situations, and they're in a season where they're struggling, and it's making you feel like, okay, now that you got to see things go 360, do you feel accomplished? Like what is the sensation that you're getting when you feel like, okay, I'm not going to do for them, I'm not going to help them, I'm not going to love them.
There's
like
nothing.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like when you want to get revenge on a person, and once you like in a fairy tale, once they seek revenge and they get their revenge, it's like, okay,
they're still empty.
They're still empty. So that's the same thing about even when you hold a grudge.
Because it doesn't bring happiness. It doesn't bring peace.
The person that you're holding that grudge about doesn't even know that you even feeling.
They're still living their
life.
They're
still living their life. But
they're brooding.
You're in bondage.
Your life is surrounded by that hurt, and you build a life plan around it.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's what I get a lot from watching, like you said, like a lot of
fairy tales, man.
Movies in general, just from life experiences. Yeah, it's
Yeah, holding those grudges
doesn't lead to anything, but it just causes you more pain in the end.
It keeps you in bondage. You're holding yourself.
You can't be free.
Yeah, you will never free yourself of it.
Especially that person of that past, of the hurt.
Because it could be to the point where you can even be in a way of holding a grudge. You could be blocking your blessing in a different season. It could be to a season where God would like to promote you and get you to another place of power and give you a lot of accolades. But you got to look at it. How would that look if the person that you feel like did you harm come back to you needing your help in that season where you're on top?
Would you help them?
Would you help them, or would you turn around and be like,
be spiteful, like, you get that? Look what you get what you deserve.
Right.
What goes around comes around.
Exactly.
I mean, hey, you don't know until you're in that situation. But I would hope and pray that I would be compassionate enough and have enough love in my heart to help.
Because that's what it comes down to. We try to become, society taught us how to be judge and jury. But it's more so if we ask God for His grace. Yeah, we can't judge, and at the same time we mess up. We ask God to please have mercy on us and give us grace. Yeah. So it's just the same thing. He says you got to love each other just like you love yourself. You know, love thy neighbor. So just try to remember that when you start to feel like that, and then even go back, and ask God for forgiveness of those feelings that you have towards people.
Yeah, that's true. So you can move on.
Yeah. So I even feel like with that tying in, that's even going into learning how to control your emotions and how big that is. I remember.
I know I struggle with control my emotions.
Yeah. I remember.
Never learned how to as a kid. Because think about it. I don't blame anything on my parents, but a lot of how you grow up, how you're raised, is how you honestly tend to deal with things as an adult. Like you kind of develop a pattern and a way of doing things. I was never taught how to control my emotions. I was taught to pretty much shut up, suck it up, or go cry over there where you can't be a bother to me. So I don't know. I'm bad to say, but I'm still struggling with that now as an adult.
Right.
And it affects me tremendously, but it's a process.
Oh yeah, definitely. Every day is a process, and it's just because like you said, that's something that you've been taught for years, something you've seen for years. So it's pretty something that's now become a habit, and that's how you know what I'm saying. So it's just it's progression over perfection.
It's you have to learn to give yourself.
You got to learn how to give yourself grace, and that's even coming into what we had to learn as coming into marriage, with you coming out of college and me working full time. We had to understand the days where we feel like we don't want to do it. We just want to call off. We just want to stay at home. We want to do what we want to do. I forget my responsibilities, and it's gonna come. If you're in your mid-20s or early 20s, late 20s.
And FOMO has no age limit either.
Right.
It will get you. What I had to learn too, a lot of my pain didn't just come from me having to forgive other people. It came from me also having to forgive myself. Because I would say sometimes you're your biggest enemy. You think sometimes the world's out to get you, but sometimes you self-sabotage.
Yes, yeah. That's good.
I do that a lot because I can't control my emotions. So that's what I'm learning how to do now. I'm trying to learn how to control my emotions, trying to learn how to forgive myself for my past mistakes and give myself grace and know that it is a process. It takes time. Give myself kudos for when I try to rein it in and forgive myself when I don't.
Something that always stuck with me was with our a pastor that we follow, PK. He actually said when it comes to your emotions, think of a train. How the train has its engine and it has the caboose. So where the engine is, that is you're supposed as you transition from a child to an adult. A child lets the train engines be their emotion. However they're feeling, that lets drive their action. But as you become an adult, you're supposed to let your will and what is what's right and what is what you have to do, let that drive you, and let your emotions come last. Let that come seconds. And you see that a lot of times with parents. Parents do this when they make that great sacrifice for their children to have, versus what they have. And so that's them putting their emotions to the back burner. Yes, they're tired, but they're working doubles. You know, it's things like that where we demonstrate it all the time, but we cannot seem to come back and understand that for our own internal.
Exactly. And like I said, me not controlling my emotions have led me to regret some things that I've let my emotions run me out of things, because when the going gets tough, I run.
You get to go.
I'm done. I'm not gonna do that. Right. Not today. Done. And I'm out. So that's hard. It's very hard.
It is hard.
It's a internal battle every day.
Every day, and even with times like that, I know for myself when I get like that, where I just every time that urge come, I stop and I just pray. God, the tension that I'm feeling, I need you to release that.
See,
because
you know how to control your emotions, and that's what I'm learning how to do. I'm learning how to just stop, breathe, and like you said, say a little prayer.
And one thing too, I always tell you too about your emotions. It's a silly thing. I tell you, like, you never supposed to allow anyone to see how you react to something. Like, whether that's frustration, anger, like, you never want people to see that, because there's some people, like you said, hurt people, they get a kick out of that. Like, oh, now I know how to get underneath your skin. So that's more so you got to learn how to self-soothe yourself so you can get to a point where you're just like, okay, I'm at my, I'm at my worst, so let me go do this to get at my best. I'm not going to allow you to see me get upset, get angry, and yell and get frustrated. And that's something we're taught to in our community, in a lot of other ethnicities. I know they're taught the same way, where we can't go out and show our frustration like our counterparts do a lot of times, but
because then we're seen as a typical angry black man or typical angry black woman.
So it's more so we've been learned to keep everything in.
You contain it until all of a sudden one day you just explode.
It just explode, and that's right now what we're seeing, a crisis of our self-awareness, our mental health, because we've always been told to shut up, keep it internal, just deal with it.
Yeah, I would ask you though.
It's been coming for generations.
Would you say like you're a ticking time bomb, or would you say that like it just slowly trickles out for you?
It's more so. Oh man, hey,
I know for me it slowly trickles out. Like,
what's so crazy? The goofball.
And then all of a sudden I exploded. But for you,
the goofball in me wanted to say something else.
What did you
but I just caught myself.
What are you about to say?
It's just more so like, how many F's do you have to give? That's really how I look at it. It's just more so like, I used to let things really bother me, but
that is you.
But I don't let it bother me no more, because
you don't really explode.
I don't explode, because it's more so like how you just constantly just breathing, you're just letting out all that fuse, because you start looking at, okay, what I'm dealing with versus issue that someone is trying to bring upon me to make it feel like, like at work when you get stressed out with anxiety because someone is piling their weight on your shoulders. And you're just dealing with it and you don't know what to do with it. The way I look at it is, I'm only here till 5 o'clock. At the end of the day,
after that, it is
what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can only operate in this area here. And
see, and I love that about you. And I'm so different. I guess, I don't know if it's like, because I wouldn't say I'm uptight, but I would say that I'm a pretty anxious person.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But God just said, don't be anxious for anything.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But for you, I feel like it comes so easily for you to say.
It's not every day.
And you just let it roll off. I'm like, no, like I take offense to everything. Like, you cut me off on the highway and then you coming from me, you're going slow. I take offense to that.
You know how you just told me
because out of all the other lanes, why can't you just stay right where you were? You had to come over in this lane and go slow. And I get mad. Like, you've seen it.
I understand.
I take offense to almost everything, and it's hard because I don't know how to be vulnerable anymore because of the past hurts, and it's molded me to become, I wouldn't say hardened, but I'm wary.
Right.
I'm very wary.
Now, you know how you said about how you seen how your parents, you come from foreign parents, and so you seen how you was raised. That's similar to how I was. Now, my dad is the calmest person I ever met. My dad don't really show no emotion. He handles things with a lot of wisdom and grace, and he would just, diffuse the situation.
Takes time to think and process.
Exactly. And so for me, that's all I was ever raised seeing. I'm seeing him handle certain situations. I'm just like, okay, you're not getting bothered or frustrated. So it's kind of like I took on my father's traits, in a sense, because I don't allow things to really get to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just all it is.
See,
it's just,
I like that.
It's just more so, I still had to work and grow at it. And you know what I'm saying? Like what I said, it's progression over perfection.
Yeah,
we're not perfect, but we're progressing to be what God has called us to be. And that's, getting rid of anxiety, depression, stress, it's hard too. Letting all that go.
Everything's hard, but you gotta choose
which
hard is worth it, because there's
choose your hard.
Each path, choose your hard. I'm learning, choose your hard.
And everything that you want in life, you gotta know you gotta work at it. you want a great marriage, like how that's something that me and you strive to have, and it's something that we work at every day.
Every day.
Every day. And that start with communication. It start with just being hot and humble, hot, open, and transparent. I love that. I love that phrase. Like it's such a tongue twister.
Tongue twister.
To get out.
I think we'll get used to it.
Right.
Times.
But yeah, that's just basically how we keep it, and that's even in your friendships. That's even when you go to work. It's just you keep everything the way that you want people to treat you back, and you first portray that first.
Forgive people. Give them grace.
Give them grace.
Some people require extra grace. And I am, because Mark knows when I get annoyed, it's very hard for me to rein that in. It will seep out, but then I'll apologize. I'll give you a little gift. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Extra grace required. Remembering that. Trying to remember that.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Be patient with yourself. Be patient with others. It gets better.
Hey, I like that. It gets better.
It gets better. I told you my favorite quote from Disney is from Finding Nemo with Dory and Nemo. You know, when life gets hard, what you gotta do? Just keep swimming.
There you go.
Keep swimming. Just keep swimming. We can all learn a lot from these children movies and books, okay? So don't judge me. It's building my character.
Well, with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in with us this week. And, take what we said to, and just reflect on it and try to apply it to your life in areas where you feel like grace is required. And I pray that y'all enjoyed y'all's Thanksgiving week. I know we did.
Be safe out there.
Filled with love and kindness, and just continue just to love on each other. But hey, until next time, guys, remember to walk in faith, never lose hope, live in love. It's just perspective.